Morning, everybody. Do let me know if I start breaking up or you can't hear me. But I'd be for now. I'd be grateful if everybody leaves their microphones on mute, just so that prevents any further interference. I'm just going to try and share my screen a second. I've got a very brief presentation to take you through. Can somebody give me a thumbs up or something to let me know if you can see my screen?
Yeah, we can see it.
Yeah, wonderful. Okay, brilliant. Just a bit of an introduction for myself then. I'm Mike Little. I'm the Social Value Manager with Morgan Sindall. We're currently building a new school, the Kevin Syson Comprehensive School, and we're shortly to start work on the Swansea Bay Technology Centre. And so the opportunities and things that I talk to you today about will involve both of those. Probably at this point, just because of the stage we are at Kevin Syson, most of them will probably be more relevant actually for the Swansea Bay Technology Centre. I'll just kick into that then. So we're here to talk about careers in construction. What I want to do really is just talk to you a bit about what the various careers could be, some of the experience or skills or qualifications you may need to consider if you want to get a career in construction, and just some general advice really about looking for work and things to think about, things to be aware of. All of the advice isn't going to be for everybody. I understand we're all in different circumstances, we're all at different stages of our various careers. So I think the first advice I'd probably give you is just take what you need from this talk. Okay, if there's any nugget of information that you find helpful, take that. You know, if there's stuff that I talk about and you've heard it before and you know it and you're doing it, brilliant. Then that's obviously that bit isn't for you. However, I would say if I'm saying something and you feel you've heard it all before, but you're not putting that into practice, then I would suggest it's probably a good idea to listen again and maybe make a plan for yourself to put those things into practice. So we'll just a little brief about Morgan Sindall, just to make you aware. Morgan Sindall is a national construction company. We're one of the largest construction companies in the UK, turning over something like, at the last time I checked, it was around about £3 or £4 billion a year. So we're a large company. This slide, I know it's busy, I don't intend to go through it, but if you look to sort of the left-hand side of this slide, you can see a number of different companies mentioned. For instance, Lovell, Morgan Sindall Property Services, Professional Services, Overbury, Muse. Morgan Sindall Group is huge, and we pretty much cover everything there is to cover within construction. So I work for the construction and infrastructure part of the business, and what we mainly build at the moment are things that we call major projects. So we build schools mainly at the moment because they're the things that are coming out of the frameworks that we sit on, and we build universities and colleges and things like that. Our Lovell arm, you may have heard of Lovell. Lovell are our housing part of the business, and they build affordable housing right across the UK. And then there's other parts of the business that we do high-end design and fit out. We work in the railway industry. So if ever you've ever jumped on a train and gone to somewhere like London Paddington, you'll probably see quite large Morgan Sindall banners there, because we're working with the rail there to improve the tracks. We work in nuclear, we work on airports, anything you can think of really related to construction, Morgan Sindall covers. And then towards the middle of that slide, we are a company that has values. Values for a company are very important, and you know it's good to be aware of that. And the reason I wanted to show you this really is because when you're looking for work and you want to start applying for jobs, you should be researching the company that you're applying for, and that's regardless of what industry you're looking to work in. If you're going to apply for a job, you should know a bit about the company that you want to go and work for. And it's always useful to find out if that company has a vision, if they have values for their business, because then you can link that with your application. Okay, so if you ever searched up Morgan Sindall, you would very easily find that we have our vision and values, and then you'd be able to talk about that for any sort of interview. Okay, so I mentioned our current projects. So Kevin Syson, I've been trying to get a recent photograph of the project from the site team, but they're thin on the ground at the moment because we're working on a rota system, because obviously in a worldwide pandemic. So yeah, there's a lot of people who are very, very busy, so I haven't been able to get a recent photograph, unfortunately. But that's an architect's image of what the school will look like when it's done. It's a £25.5 million project, funded by Welsh Government and Neath Port Talbot Council, and exactly the same for Swansea Bay Technology Centre as well. That's a £9 million project that we're building. We're going to start work on that. We actually signed a project on that, signed a contract, sorry, on that 2 days ago. So we're going to be starting work on that imminently, and that starts with a strip of the land, and then we'll start in with our groundworks and so forth. So there's quite a lot going on there. These projects, because they're funded by Welsh Government, carry what we call community benefits clauses. And those clauses mean that when Welsh Government invests an amount of money in construction, they want a return on that investment, and their return is community benefits. So we don't just build projects, build buildings. Anybody can do that, but the companies that win the work to build these buildings also need to do these additional things. So we need to provide local employment and training, work experience placements, working with the local community, working with the local schools and education. It's something that as a business we believe strongly in, which is why they employ people like me to manage the social value aspect of our projects, and there's quite a number of people like me across our business around the country. And so it links very well with what Welsh Government are looking to achieve through their funding. So I thought I'd put a few slides together around about routes in construction and things, and to be honest, this is mainly to keep me on track. Otherwise I'll just go off on tangents and talk about anything for hours and hours, and you're not here to listen to me waffle. So I thought I'd pick your sort of three main routes really into construction. The first one is an apprenticeship. Now, a few years ago, people would have thought of an apprenticeship as something for young people only. And actually it was kind of pushed for 16 to 24-year-olds for apprenticeships. That's not the case. It certainly wasn't the case really, but it definitely isn't the case anymore. Anybody can be an apprentice. The thing that you need to be aware of is obviously an apprentice wage, because you're learning a trade, won't be the same wage as somebody who's experienced in that trade. And so while you're an apprentice, while you're learning a particular skill in a particular trade, obviously you are going to be on less money than more experienced people, but that's for a certain time to get you to a place where you're qualified, and then you start earning good money. So if you're in a position where I would say the average apprenticeship wage is around about £160 a week, and that includes usually 4 days working on site, and then 1 day in college to get your qualification. If that's the sort of circumstance that you're able to manage for the next, well, certainly for your first year, you'd be on that wage. And then after that, you'd probably go to minimum wage, or as Morgan Sindall, we living wage. And so that's a really good route into construction. You must be in college. You can't do an apprenticeship without being in college. And the reason for that is you do need to get a qualification. An apprenticeship is all about earning and learning at the same time. So I've noted there typical apprenticeship jobs. That's not all of them by any means, but you're looking at your typical trade, your bricklaying, carpentry. There's electrical apprenticeships. There's mechanical apprenticeships. A ground worker, plumbing. My son is actually a painting and decorating apprentice, and he's just started his second year. And for him, an apprenticeship is absolutely brilliant. He's flying. He'd never done anything relating to construction before. He'd worked in coffee shops for a while and then just kind of fell off the radar really with them, wasn't applying himself or anything like that. So I helped him get into an apprenticeship. He's doing a painting and decorating apprenticeship, and he's just found something that he loves, and he's brilliant. In fact, during lockdown, when he couldn't go to work, he basically painted our house for us. So that was really useful as well. So an apprenticeship can be a fantastic route into construction. You're working with people who've done this job for ages. They know what they're doing. They'll pass all of their experience on to you. You get a qualification at the end of it as well. And then pretty much if you're working in the trades, you've got a job. You've basically got a job for life, really. Everybody needs people working in the trades. So that's your first route. Okay, that's a route that I would strongly suggest everybody consider. And I suppose the thing that would sway it for you, depending on your personal circumstances, would be the wage that you get from that. Another route into construction is the graduate route. Some of you may have been in university and have a degree. Some of you may be in a position where you've been thinking about that and you'd like to get into university and get a degree. That's not for everybody. It certainly wasn't for me. I don't have a degree. I don't have anything really. When I left school, I left with English and a resit maths, and that was it. So I've basically started working in retail and anything else that I could get my hands on, and I've worked my way up through various jobs over the years. So, you know, not, like I said, university not for everybody, but construction jobs that typically require a degree will include architects, quantity surveyors, engineers, design managers, site managers. But the beauty of those is that some of those roles can actually be done similarly to an apprenticeship, where you can do a day release to university, where a company potentially sponsors you to do that, and then you work 4 days a week within a company. We've got a number of people in our business that do that. We've got a trainee quantity surveyor currently working with us on a project that we're delivering in Barry. And again, they're on a day release into university to get their degree, and they're working with us on the project. And so it's longer in university to get that degree because it's day release, not full time, but they're earning all the way through as well. And as a company, we're sponsoring that, so they'll leave university with none of that university debt as well. So if the kind of degree route would be something that would interest some of you, and the jobs that I've noted there under undergraduate, some of those might interest you, then I would strongly suggest looking for companies that offer those sponsorship degrees. You need to do a bit of digging. Not everybody advertises them, not everybody offers them, because obviously it is quite a cost for a business. But where there are opportunities, it's certainly worth applying for those. And then I am simplifying this a great deal, but I feel for putting a presentation together, better to simplify it and then field questions later. So another option then, it would be work experience. And again, I would imagine some of you on the call, the work experience route would probably be the route for you as well. Work experience helps, I think, for a number of ways. It can help concrete in your mind whether you feel this industry is for you or not, especially if you've never worked in construction. Some people have particular ideas about what they think working in construction would involve, and then when they get there, they find the reality is very different to what they expected. So what a work experience opportunity allows you to do is try it. It's almost like a try before you buy type thing. And that works for you and the employer. You may do a work experience opportunity on a project, and you may find then that actually construction isn't for you. You didn't enjoy it. I wouldn't consider that a negative outcome, because that enables you now to focus your attention on other things, knowing that when these opportunities within construction comes up, you've tried it, it's not for you. So that helps you streamline your job search. Similarly, you could do a work experience opportunity and absolutely love it. Well, brilliant. You know then that that's the route that you want to take. Now, typically, the work experience opportunities that we would offer on our projects would be jobs like a gate person, a site labourer, maybe a facilities cleaner, things like that. I've put in that box unskilled in inverted commas, because it's a phrase that's used. It's an unskilled job, but all that means is you don't need a qualification to do it. What it doesn't mean is that you don't have any skill. To be a gate person takes a lot of skill, takes a lot of patience, it takes some good organisation skills, because you're dealing with the public, you're dealing with contractors coming on and off site. And as a gate person, your role is to make sure that nobody gets on that project without authorization. And so to kind of put that role in an unskilled bracket with what that word suggests, I feel is unfair. The same as a labourer. A good labourer on a project is absolutely like gold for that project team. They need in a labourer somebody that they can rely on, that they know the job gets done. They don't need somebody that they have to give a list of jobs to every day, and then every other day they're having to give that same list again because it wasn't done the day before. So they really need somebody reliable who's got really good people skills and who can engage with all different members of the project team. So these are roles that aren't unskilled as in they don't have any skill. We only call them unskilled because there's no qualification required to do them. I hope I've put that across okay for you. But again, work experience is great. Typically, you're going to do an unpaid work experience. Okay, I want to get that out there straight away. Depending on the work coaches you work with and the organisations you work with, there may be funding that comes from them that can help you, and that would be on an individual basis that you discussed there. But from an employer perspective, if we offer work experience, typically it will be unpaid. And for that reason, the maximum we would offer really would be 2 weeks, because I feel doing more than that and not being paid is unfair. That's my personal opinion. So we typically offer 1 or 2 weeks work experience, and they would typically be for those roles that I've put in that green box there. Okay, that's not exhaustive at all by any means, but that's your general typical areas there. So I've talked about the sort of routes into construction. I do hope some of you will consider apprenticeships. It would be great if some of you felt that you wanted to consider the university route, whether that's full-time or part-time and sponsored. And again, for those that sort of haven't done anything relating to construction before, but not for those, those two routes are not for you, then I would hope that you would consider some work experience as well. I just wanted to kind of cover some general guidance for job searching, really. And it's not meant to offend anybody or to be condescending, but I wanted to get it out there just in case it helped somebody. Okay, so again, like I said at the beginning, if this isn't for you, that's fine, but it might be for somebody. And if it's helpful for you, just take that advice, okay? First bit, really, review and update your CV. The CV is so important, and I think less and less people realise how important a CV is these days. And quite often I get very, very bland CVs. I could get 10 CVs and they could pretty much all look the same, because your typical opening on a CV, I'm a very enthusiastic individual. I work well on my own and within a team, and I work really hard. And it just gets boring because everybody says that. An opening statement should grab an employer's attention, and the opening statement on your CV should represent you. It shouldn't represent what you think an employer wants to hear. And very often that's what we get. We get I call them template CVs. Just all you do is put your name and address in it and send it off, because all the rest of the information is the same. If you think that when you're sending a CV into an employer, they don't know you, so the only opportunity they have to get to know you is that piece of paper that you've sent in, that CV. So if that CV doesn't represent you as an individual and all of your personal attributes that you can bring to a job, all of your personal experience that you can bring to that job, if that's not represented in your CV, then you're doing yourself a disservice. So I'd strongly suggest reviewing your CV if you have one. If you don't, you need to get one, you need to make one. But if you have one, you need to review it. And I would suggest you review your CV before you apply for any job. If you apply for 3 jobs in a week, before you apply for each of those jobs, you should review your CV. Now that may sound like a lot of work, but like I just said, that CV represents you on a page. And so it's really, really important. I actually have a number of CVs. So if I'm looking for work, thankfully I'm in a job that I love. And so I'm hoping that I get to stay in the job that I'm in. But if I was looking for work, I would have a CV that represents each industry that I'm looking to work in. Now, in my time, I've worked in retail, I've worked in insurance, and I've worked in construction. So I would typically have 3 CVs that the information is the same because it's about me, but the focus in those CVs will represent retail if I'm applying for a retail job. I'll highlight experience for insurance if I went to an insurance job, and I would put the focus on construction if I'm looking for a construction job. So it's okay to have a number of CVs, and I think you should, depending on the job you're going for, because then it fully represents who you are for that job and tells the employer why they should consider you. The other thing to consider on your CV is make sure that you can back up what you put on there. Okay. If you put on there, I am the best person you will ever find in this job, sounds great. I want you to back it up. Prove it to me. What makes you the best? So don't use language that that is so embellished, that is so I'm not sure what sort of word I'm thinking of really, that makes you sound like someone that you're not. Okay, because if you get sat in an interview and someone picks up on something, they want you to prove it. So only put on your CV what you can prove. Now, if you are a very conscientious individual, great, tell us, but know that you have to have an example to back that up. If you are the best person in the whole world at basketball, for instance, because I'm just pulling out a ridiculous example, well, I want you to prove it. What makes you better than Michael Jordan, as an example? Okay, so don't put stuff on a CV just to make you sound better if it's not really true, because you will get caught out, and then obviously you're not going to get the job you're applying for. Okay, so that's enough on CVs, I think. Moving on to applying for jobs. I've met people in the past that when they're out of work, they will just apply for anything. They'll go maybe to the job centre or something like that. They'll get a list of jobs and they'll just send a CV off for every single job they see. I'm not a fan of that. I've got to be honest with you. Because what if you can't do some of the jobs you're applying for? What if one of the jobs you're applying for requires you to have a particular qualification or a particular skill that you currently don't have, and you're never going to get the opportunity to get that? For me, that's a wasted application. And so it's a strange one to get across. I've been out of work, thankfully a few years ago for me, but while I was out of work, I did need to apply for a lot of jobs. I did need to look for work. And I felt that I couldn't be picky on applying for jobs, other than I would only apply for jobs I could do. So at that time, I only had retail experience. So I was applying for retail jobs. I wouldn't apply for a job I know that I couldn't do. It's different if you think, well, I can learn that. But if you know there is no chance at all you're ever going to learn that and get that skill, move on, find a job that you can do. Okay, so you need to look at the criteria that jobs are advertising, and you need to be able to meet most of that criteria, not all of it. But if there are 10 things they require of a person to do that job, and you can only do one of them, realistically, other people are going to be able to do more and they're going to get the job. So I would kind of look, can I meet the majority of this job spec? Yes, I can. Now I'm going to apply. I'm going to review my CV and update it. I'm going to apply for this job. The other thing to do is practicing being interviewed. And that's really uncomfortable. We made my son practice being interviewed before he went for his apprenticeship because he'd never been interviewed before. We knew he was going to have an interview, and so we sat him down and we pretended to be the employer interviewing him. And if he could have made the floor create a hole and swallow him up, he would have. He was absolutely hating every minute of it. And honestly, he was rubbish. So we, and we expected that. So we gave him some tips. We asked him to go away and think about it and practice, and came back. And we probably did it about 3 nights running. We interviewed him and he did not want to do it because it's weird, it's uncomfortable, but it worked. And when he went on his interview, he was a lot more confident because he understood what the process was like. And he got himself used to talking about himself. Very often we're not comfortable about telling people how good we are. But in an interview, you've got to tell an employer why you're so good that they need to employ you. And so had he not had that practice, I really believe he wouldn't have got that apprenticeship job. But because he'd had that practice, he was a lot more confident going in and a lot more comfortable talking about himself. So I would say, again, if you get invited for an interview, find somebody you trust, whether that's somebody in your family, a friend, a job coach, anybody, and get some practice being interviewed. It really will work for you and help you a lot. The next thing is following up on applications. How often do you send an application form into a company and then sit back and wait for them to let you know if they've received it or if you're going to be successful? That's not the thing to do. If you apply for a job, follow it up and follow it up and follow it up and follow it up until you get an answer. And if the answer is no, at least you've got an answer, you can move on. Okay. In fact, if you've applied for a job, you should almost be a bit of a nuisance. And I don't mean that in a negative sense, but I do mean you should follow up. Contact the company. I sent you an application. I'm wondering if there's a response yet. And if they tell you, right, we're waiting until such a date, and then we'll contact you after that date. Well, put it in your diary, wait for after that date, and if you still haven't heard from them, contact them. You told me you'd phone me on this date. I haven't heard anything, just wondered where we are. And every time they put you off, because companies will, you get a date off them and you carry on following up until you get a yes or no answer. It's really important because not everybody does it. So if you're one of the ones that do, you're more likely to kind of be on the top of the pile to get invited for an interview if you meet the criteria of the people they're looking for. Okay, so that's really important. Again, something that quite often we're not comfortable with. Oh, I don't want to be a nuisance. I asked yesterday, I don't want to keep phoning. You really must, because who's losing out if you don't get a job? It's not that business. You're the one losing out if you don't get a job. So, you need to kind of look after yourself in that respect. Apply for something and follow it up. And the last thing there, I put do work experience. I know it's not the best English there, but I've been looking for words to put in bold on every bit there. So, but do work experience. If you want to try something, offer yourself, offer your time to do work experience. If you come to an employer and say, I would like to do an unpaid 1 week work experience with you, it would be rare for them to turn that down unless there's no way that they can possibly offer it. But if there's a way that they can, why would they not have somebody in their business for a week showing them around and helping them out and not having to pay for them? So it's a win-win. you get experience with a company, you also get to prove yourself to that company, prove to them how well you work, what your work ethic is like. You always turn up early rather than just on time. You always stay until you're supposed to leave. You always do everything that they ask you to do. And once you've done that, you think on your feet and you go and do other things, or check that it's okay to go and do other things. It's almost like a week-long job interview. You know, what better way to prove to somebody that you're a good worker for them than showing them by doing some work experience? Okay, so that's a really good thing to look for as well. Okay, and that's me for my presentation. So thank you for listening. If there are still people listening, I'm going to stop sharing my screen right now. Brilliant. I can still see that there's people on, so thank you for that.
Thank you very much, Michael. Can you hear me?
I can hear you, Holly. Yeah, that's brilliant.
Great. Yeah, I was just going to say thank you so much for joining us and for that brilliant presentation. Some really good advice there, and some sensible advice as well that both our participants and mentors can take back there. So we're going to open it up to some questions, if that's okay.
Absolutely.
Okay, so I'll just have a look at the box, see if anyone's put some in there, and I do have a bit of a list for you as well, so let's have a look. Some feedback. I don't know if you can see the chat box yourself. Excellent information on the process of applying and chasing up a job opportunity. Great presentation. Excellent. Thank you. Good info. Really informative. Great presentation. We have our first question. How could a college link in for work experience, please? So
okay,
this is a contact from the college.
That's a contact from the college. Okay, brilliant. Yes. Contact me basically, and let me know what you're looking for, and if we can host that, we will definitely do that. So I'm happy, Holly. I'm happy for you to pass my email address to people like that, colleges and other contacts. That'd be great. Okay,
no problem. I will do that.
Thank you for the feedback, everyone. That's really useful to me. Thank you.
Yeah, another some more feedback. Thank you. Very informative. Another very informative session. Thank you. Okay, so question time now. Once again, if you have any questions, don't worry if you feel they may be stupid questions. No question is stupid. If you need clarification on anything, if you might have missed it, just ask. There's no harm in asking. But I do have a list of questions, and I'll just pop them in the chat box now.
Okay.
And sorry if you have already answered some of them too. Let's have a look. Okay. So the first question. When the building work on a particular site comes to an end, would you recommend your employee for other jobs that come available if they worked well, were reliable and showed a good work ethic, for example?
Absolutely, yeah. We definitely do that whenever we can. Sometimes the difficulty we have is that we don't have other work in the area. Okay. I'll give an example of that. We worked on Pentrahavard High School in Swansea a few years ago, and that was a new build and a refurb. And we had a number of people that we employed there for that project. That project came to an end, and we had nothing else in Swansea or anywhere close. I think the closest job we had from Swansea at that time was in Rhondda and Taff. And so we struggled then because there were two particular individuals who didn't have a car, and so weren't able to get from Swansea to our site in Rhondda and Taff. And so what we did then, we engaged with employment agencies that we work with. That's one of the things I haven't covered yet, actually. And we asked them to help them out. But if there's any way that we can keep a good employee, we definitely do. You know, we're quite fortunate at the moment in that, like I said, Kevin Syson is it's not coming to an end, but it's in the final stages of construction. But as that's happening, we're just about started another one, which is also in Neath Port Talbot, and so we're able to then take really good people over to that project. So yeah, if there's a way that we can, we definitely do that.
That's brilliant, thank you. Okay, are there random drug and alcohol tests, and if so, how far in advance would they be?
Okay, there are random drug and alcohol tests. Oh gosh, I can't think of the name of the company that we use. There is no advance warning. They will turn up on a site. Actually, what happens is, in our business, there's only two people that know when a drug and alcohol test is going to happen. That's our health and safety manager and our office manager. And that's just to organise it. So basically, they will contact our office manager and say, we need to do a drug and alcohol test. Give us a list of your projects. And then they'll choose a project. They'll contact our health and safety manager and they'll say, we're going to do a drug and alcohol test on this site tomorrow. So we need you there. They will turn up. They will take the sign-in in book and they will just choose a number of names from that sign-in in book. And those people will come and do a drug and alcohol test. If you refuse the test, then you are removed from site because that's basically considered a fail. If you leave site once you've been chosen, then again that's considered a fail. So yeah, we take it very seriously. Construction is a dangerous industry, so we have to keep our people safe. So yeah, I mean, yeah, no advanced warning basically, and yes, we do carry them out.
Okay, brilliant, fair enough. So is transport or own vehicle driver's license essential for the roles, especially in summer months when it would be early starts? Don't know.
It's a tough one to answer really. Personally, I think yes, simply because you can't be guaranteed that there will always be work on your doorstep. The construction industry is a very transient one. You go where the work is. So, you know, you could say, for instance, you live down the road from Kevin Syson and you got to work on that. Brilliant, until we finish. When that job's done, where are you going to go? So if you don't have your own transport, it just makes it difficult to move on to the next job. And construction certainly isn't one of those industries where you only get to work in the town that you work in. One of my project managers, I'll mention Pentrahavod again, really. He was from Swansea. He was living in Swansea. That was the first job, I think it was something like in 20 years of him working in construction. That was the first job that he project managed that was actually where he lived. All of the others he travelled. So yeah, I think it's essential for you so that you can make sure you can get to the job. That's all I can say on that, I think, really.
Okay, next question. Are employees paid weekly or monthly?
Depends what you're doing. Most site operatives are paid weekly, and typically you'd fill in a timesheet and give that in, and you're paid weekly. People like myself who are salaried, we're paid monthly, but typically, like I said, your site operatives are usually weekly, but it depends on the company you work for.
Okay, great. And is PPE provided, especially, you know, this lockdown situation, COVID situation, sorry?
Yeah, PPE is a weird one in COVID because, for instance, if we invited you onto a site visit to just to show you around the project, we're then loaning you a hat and a vest and gloves and boots and things like that. And so then that's got to be fully disinfected before anybody else puts it on. So that makes it a bit more awkward. For a work experience placement, yeah, we would probably look to provide PPE, but typically we don't provide boots. And the main reason for that really is not everyone has the same shoe size, do they? So, you know, you might be a size 6 and we'll buy a pair of size 6 boots. And then the next 3 people that come along are a size 7, 8 and 9. Well, we got to buy an extra pair of boots then. So we typically don't provide boots. Otherwise, we just have cabins and cabins full of boots. So yeah, what we normally do would be provide the hat, gloves, goggles and high vis for that work experience. And we would hope then that you're working with some support that might be able to help you with boots. When it comes to being given a job, then yes, your employer should provide your PPE.
Okay, excellent. Are there roles available for all abilities and levels? Well, you pretty much covered that with the different routes, the 3 different routes, but if you can expand on that any more, then...
Yeah, I mean, yeah, you've said that. I mean, I did try and cover that, but yeah, there are roles available for all abilities and levels. There really are. We just need to understand where you're at and see if we can match an opportunity for what you're looking for. But for instance, if you've never worked in construction before, then no, you can't come and do a site manager role because you need qualifications to do that and you need experience, you know. So it depends on what you're looking for. If you're willing to kind of come in and, if you like, I hate the phrase, but I can't think of one to replace it. If you're willing to come in and start from the bottom and work your way up, then yes, there is a place for you. The construction as an industry is very inclusive, and it's not widely considered as an inclusive employer, but it really is. Very often, if you talk to maybe schools, they might, even now, they still push boys who are not doing well in school towards construction. And as an industry, we're screaming at education to say, no, that's not just the type of person we're looking for. We're looking for everybody. We're looking for high achievers. We're looking for men and women. We're looking for people of all abilities. It doesn't matter. If you can do the job, that's what we're interested in. So yeah, sorry, it's a long answer, but yes,
No, that's brilliant, fantastic. It's really good to know. Okay, so how quickly can your salary increase if you show a good work ethic and are reliable?
I mean, that entirely depends on the company you're working for, if I'm honest with you.
Okay.
I mean, if you look at the apprenticeship route, your year 1 apprenticeship will be about £160 a week. Whatever age you are, first year apprentice is on very basic apprentice wage. And a brilliant organisation that we work with is Covler, which is a shared apprenticeship scheme. And they would pay you about that. It's about £160 a week to do your first year. Once you've completed your first year, then you go on to national minimum wage for your age group. So then it depends on your age to what you're gonna bring home. I gave my son as an example, who's doing a painting and decorating apprenticeship. His first year he was on £160 a week. Now he's on something like 250 a week because he's 20. And in November he turns 21. So then he's going to be on topping £300 a week, just because that's the minimum wage for his age. So in that respect, his money's gone up pretty damn quickly. But it just depends. It depends on the employer you're working for, really.
Okay, brilliant again. And what age do you accept? Is it 18 plus? Sorry, I think you've already mentioned that.
We prefer 18 plus only because if you're under 18, you have to be fully escorted on the project. So if you're under 18, we have to complete a young person's risk assessment that has to be completed by us, you, and your parent or carer. And then you cannot be on a project, on a site on your own at any time. So if you were put with somebody, let's choose an example of, let's say you were going to work alongside a bricklayer. Bricklayer decides he needs the toilet, so he needs to walk off site to go to the toilet. You have to go off site with him. Okay, I'm not saying you've got to follow them into the toilet, but you have to follow them off site. And only when they come back to site are you allowed back on site if you're under 18. They're the rules at the moment. So for all concerned, it's just easier, honestly, if you're over 18, because we don't need to do all of that extra stuff. That's not to say there aren't opportunities for under 18. All right, so I don't want to put under 18s off that, but that's just where it's easier. That's all.
Okay, great. Is there a minimum qualification level or preferred qualification or experience needed? You've gone through that as well.
Yeah, it depends on the job you're looking for. That's all I can say really on that one.
Okay. We might come back to that because we're going to mention the CSCS and CCNSG qualifications available with us, as well as site safety.
Well.
Okay. Would you consider interviewing potential candidates without the qualifications? Then if they are successful, they could be sent on the relevant courses with a confirmed offer of employment should they be successful. Because as you know, projects like ours, we can help fund training courses. So I think that's what it's referring to.
Yeah, I think where that works best is an apprenticeship.
Okay.
Because then you would be put on a college course and you would be earning and learning at the same time. Where I mentioned about getting a degree and working at the same time on your day release, it's similar to an apprenticeship, but typically what you would need to do is you would need to be on a course. So the people that we've got right now, they've done the first year of a university degree, or they might have done it in college, and then they've switched to a day release and come to work with us. So it depends on the job, and it depends if you've got other attributes that really sell you to a company that would be willing then to put you through. When it comes to things like Holly just mentioned CSCS cards. CSCS cards, you need an NVQ qualification to get one, but the card itself isn't a qualification. It's a health and safety test. And all it tells an employer is you have a certain level of health and safety knowledge. It doesn't make you competent to work on a construction site. But construction companies always say, if you're working for us on a site, you have to have a CSCS card. It's just so that the company can prove that their workers have an agreed and acceptable level of knowledge on health and safety. That's what that's for. So it depends on the role.
Okay, thank you. Right, I think we've answered the other two questions. One more, does the work experience require CSCS, or can this be done once the candidate has completed?
Right, well, hot off the press for us actually, and I need to double check that my project teams have received this information, but for a work experience, our project teams have always told me that everybody has to have a CSCS card, but I've had confirmation from my safety manager literally 2 days ago that for a work experience, a CSCS card isn't necessary. So I need to follow that up with my site teams to make sure they have that message and that they're in agreement with it. But as far as I've been told by my health and safety manager, for work experience only, you don't need a CSCS card. Now, that's for us, and that's new. Not all construction companies are going to tell you the same thing, because, like I said, we used to say everyone has to have a CSCS card. So, yeah, at the moment you shouldn't need it. I stress only for a work experience. If you then got a job, you have to have a CSCS card. It wouldn't be something that you could start your job and get it. You'd have to have it before you started the job.
Okay, fantastic.
There was one question, sorry, there was one I just saw, and somebody's asked, do you take individuals with criminal convictions?
Oh, yes. Sorry, I missed that.
Yeah, I did want to address that because that's an important one. And the short answer is yes. We don't judge. We want to make sure that we give opportunities for people that want them. I suppose we need to be careful around it. And I'll give you, again, an extreme example. We're building a school. So somebody that's on the offenders register, we couldn't have working on a project with us. Okay. So the short, easy answer is yes, we do offer opportunities for those with criminal convictions. And I would strongly suggest not hiding that either. Be upfront and honest about it. If you have a conviction and it's spent, let us know, okay? And we'll work with you. But you know, we've got to be sensible. If like I said, if somebody's on the sex offenders register and we're building a school, then no, you can't work for us on that. just because, I mean, how it looks really, for a lot of other reasons as well, politically and everything. So I hope that answers the question, but yeah, yes is the short answer.
Fantastic, thank you. Okay, does anybody have any more questions? As we've come to the end now. I think we've answered everything, and well, I think you've answered everything, I mean, and covered everything in your presentation too. So there we go. I don't think there's any more, but if we do have any that come through to me afterwards, I can always email you. So
yeah, that'd be great.
Brilliant. Just another lovely comment. Sorry, have to go. Very useful session as well. So great feedback, Michael. And I just want to thank you very, very much for attending, for giving that fantastic advice and information on the opportunities available. Another person said this was a superb session. Please pass contact details over. Much appreciated. Learned a lot. Thank you, Mike. Thank you, Holly. Great presentation. So yeah, absolutely brilliant. Again, really appreciate your time, and we look forward to working together.
Absolutely.
In the future. So
oh, that's brilliant. Well, thank you, everybody. I'm glad it was useful. I wish you all the best.
Thank you very much.